we want people to feel excited, because when that serendipity happens, Chris, to your point, that serendipity is something people miss so much. But when you see it and it's exciting to you and you feel connected to it, you're just inclined to take part and feel excited. That connection is so powerful.
Welcome to this River Community session with Theo and Jordan from Late Checkout, a holding company that creates, grows, and buys community-based products.
This is a unique format. I'm still trying it out. I don't know if I like it. We'll see. Instead of just a private podcast that we produce later and some people may or may not watch the recording, we open up the floor for other people to join in and kind of engage them throughout. I don't know how many people will show up. They can chime in or ask questions like throughout, and it just like makes it a little more dynamic. Andrew's going to MC this, so it should be fun. Kind of just talking about the intersection of community and startups, which I know you guys have a lot to say about. So yeah, why don't I hand it over to Andrew and maybe we do some intros or something.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey, I'm Andrew Hankey. For those of you that don't know me, I have my own consultancy and sort of advisory. And I'm super stoked to be here and kind of do this. It's my first time moderating, but I'm going for it. I'm going full send on the moderation here today. So hopefully I do a great job. You want to go around and introduce yourself, Jordan and Theo? Kind of go around the room.
Jordan Mix, great to meet you guys. Good to hang out today. I'm an operating partner at Late Checkout. It's a holding company where we build and buy businesses that have strong internet communities or passionate audiences that can have communities added to them to create more connectivity, more community activation, loyal customers, raving fans.
I get the pleasure of working with Jordan every day, and got to hang out with him in New York last week, and it was a treat. I got some Southern hospitality on an East Coast city, so it was wonderful. My name is Theo Tabah, co-founder, COO at Late Checkout, the holding company Jordan just mentioned, where we grow, build, and buy community-based businesses. And I also run one of those businesses called LCA. Notice the T, fun fact, Jordan pressed this in his living room or in his office. I don't even know where he pressed it, but it was well done, high quality. Where we really try and bring this philosophy of community-based products to some of the biggest brands in the world. So we partner with Fortune 500s, 1000s, or innovative startups and help them think about their futures. What are some big questions they want to tackle? Future of video, communication, productivity. We leverage the latest technologies, community, product, and we help them kind of vision how they can get there, ideate, and then take them 0 to 1. It's a ton of fun.
I can say hi. I'm Rae, co-founder of River. Stumbled upon creating this startup because I accidentally created this fan club for All In. I just wanted to hang out with cool people in Miami. And it exploded. It was like looking around for tools that would help everyone get together in a decentralized way. And the existing tool set wasn't working. So now I'm building River. And yeah, it's been really crazy ride. Tim Ferriss. We're about to launch with Solana tomorrow. By the time this is live for other people, we will have been tweeted out to 2.6 million people. So we are buckling up. Buttercups. Yeah, that's us. Ryan can go next. Then Chris.
Yeah, so I pretty much handle the product here at River. I brought in our first engineers, managed to convince our CTO to hop on board with us. Hey, Bernie. I spent a lot of time hearing about things that we're not doing and things that we're doing that are making people happy. In particular, Chris here. I spent a lot of time chatting with him. He's the, I don't actually know his official title, but he's kind of like runs a huge community within Solana. But yeah, my background's in machine learning and AI and product as well. And yeah. I'm super excited to build this. Behind closed doors, call it religion as a service, but we can pin that and talk about that someday.
Cult as a service.
Yeah, cult as a service.
Hey, Chris, you want to say hi?
Hey, everyone. Yeah, I don't know what my title is either, to be honest, Ryan. I mean, I think with kind of the nature of what we do, I work with Super Team and Solana Foundation. The nature of what we do, it's decentralized. We don't tend to have like a hierarchy of roles. So it's quite a level community. You need some kind of structure, but we don't tend to sort of like flex it and say, oh, I'm ahead of this or ahead of that. But yeah, my general job is to lead events for Super Team, which is a decentralized sort of community. We're spread across, I think it's like 11, 12 sort of official countries right now, adding all of the time to new ones. Yeah, a huge community. We have meetups every month. I think we had about 70 meetups last week with about 2,500 people attending. So it's a pretty big and rapidly growing community. And yeah, River is helping us to facilitate the community to actually organize the events themselves. So yeah, that's my background.
And Chris is just perpetually checking DMs. He gets like a zillion Telegram DMs, and my goal with River is just remove the need for DMs. So he can
Save me, please save me.
Chris, I feel like I have to say this, but Chris is also a founder. He's also got his own thing that he's building as well. Super Team is like part of what he does. But yeah,
I don't have much time for it. It's like a side gig, but yeah, it's an app that helps patients who've been for medical surgery to sort of to improve the patient experience. So like often if you go for a surgery, you're going to get like a set of complicated instructions. So we're trying to make that experience smoother. Because just to make that nicer and easier to understand, the complex instructions, which medications to follow, which protocols to follow. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have much time for it anymore, so it's kind of like on the sort of side. But maybe one day I'll go back to it.
So the whole community that you're in, like everybody is all they're all like founders. They've all got something, even if it's really cool.
Well, I'm glad everyone's here. I wanted to start today with just a conversation around the TAM of community. I think that it can be diced up in a couple different ways. So I'd love to get kind of everyone's perspective on what that looks like. And I'm going to lead in with like, let's set religion and politics aside. I think they're like two amazing examples of community, but they're like their own behemoths in and of themselves. So Theo, let's start with you. Like, what do you think the TAM of sort of community or community as a subset of these other businesses? What does that look like to you?
It's a great question. I've never been asked that before, nor have I ever thought about it, to be honest, because to me, it felt like, or it feels like now that prompt is in my, right in front of me, it feels like the TAM is sort of capped to the number of people who engage with a brand. Community doesn't feel like something that is confined to a certain ceiling other than the number of people that could possibly join it. It doesn't feel like what's the TAM of sneaker buyers or joggers? Like it doesn't feel like that. We are humans. We need to belong somewhere to something. And what was once religion or politics is diminishing. And I think personalities, brands, companies can start to fill the role of providing community and belonging to the customers that interact with them. So I think the TAM is likely very different depending on who you are as a brand or as a influencer or as a personality. But I don't think it's an interesting question, and I'm very curious what others have to say, but I've never thought of it as a ceiling. I feel it as like it's a non-negotiable. You need to provide this for folks to create a moat and an edge and build loyalty.
Yeah. What do you think is leading to that decline of those other elements, like the decline of politics and religion? Maybe in America is a great way to start, but maybe globally, like, do you think it has something to do with what Chris and those folks are doing, like these large distributed communities being connected sort of across the globe?
Yeah, I think like the world looks very different from when those institutions were initially kind of created. It's much more accessible to be everywhere, work anywhere, and interact with people who aren't next to you or family who you kind of grow up with and live next to or live with. So I think the world just looks very different from what it did, 200, 150, even 10 years ago. And while, more people live together in the same city than ever before, you still don't know who your neighbor is despite having thousands in the same building. And it's that level of like lack of connection, even though we are hyper connected, that I feel has people yearning for connection in other places. And online identities are just as important as offline. And your kind of digital identity, or yourself, your true self, is not made up of who you are walking on the street anymore. It's how you interact everywhere. And we spend more time here than we do out there. So it's a new world, I guess. Like I don't have all the data, but it's a new world.
Yeah, great point. Jordan, how do you think about the TAM of community?
What's the TAM of the world? What's the GDP of the world? No, I mean, I think very, very similarly to Theo. It's like the buffet table just got way bigger with the internet, and like people they can eat whatever they want, wherever they want, however they want, and but it's empty calories, I think, a lot of times, where they're not truly like scratching that itch. So like the longing and desire to connect, I think, is like at all-time highs, but it's distributed, kind of spread too thin across a lot of different things. So while the trends are diminishing for like politics, religion, etc., they're filling that void and that need with other things. And I think my take is that religion and community will bring religion and politics all back together. Down the road, everyone ends up, having the same human desires and psychologies. So I think it's just super fascinating. Humans haven't changed, but the way that we've interacted is changing.
How do you think about, those political movements, religions were built so heavily around in-person gatherings? So there's like this bar has been lowered for this global distributed community building effort that you could partake in. But how do you guys think about like the actual in-person stuff? Like how do we get that back into the focus? Because that has to be a huge part of, to me, a huge part of how you actually build a really integrated, dynamic community.
I got an idea. When I look at old communities, they all have real estate, like fixed managed real estate. They have churches, golf courses, yacht clubs, Elks lodges, the Freemasons, like they all own real estate. And so they always have this meeting place to go to. I was looking recently, I get asked what the TAM is all the time because I'm trying to fundraise and never answer very well, but just golf courses alone, golf like clubs, are doing 38 billion a year in revenue, and it's growing 9% year over year, which isn't like huge growth. But like, I don't personally know anyone, like not a lot of people like are telling me that they're like going to be on golf clubs. Like I know that Jordan likes it, but like, it's just crazy to me that like people clearly want to get together in a space and like do something together. And if you're not into sports and you're not into religion, like there isn't a way to do it without, like, historically there hasn't been a way to do it without real estate. And I feel like in the old world, real estate was like the thing that brought people together consistently. And now we're trying to figure out how to do that without real estate.
I think that brings up a good point about excuses to connect and then place to connect. Like, I think real estate was always the place. There was typically what it feels like an excuse, whether it's playing a golf game, whether it's going to Sunday service, whether it's like, there was an excuse to bring people together. And then they had that place to actually gather, that third place or that whatever it was. And I think we realized that creating a third place or a place to gather online can solve part of the problem and bring people together. But I think, to your question, Andrew, that online piece is like, pendulum swing, and everyone kind of started going all online, and let's gather in Discords, and let's gather in products, and let's gather in places like that. And I think there's an absolute intentional kind of need for that, and it will serve a purpose. But I do think it needs to come back a little, and people realize it's not a replacement for getting together in person, really connecting and getting to kind of break down barriers that way.
Jordan, I have some golf specific questions since we hit on golf, because I think it's super interesting. This was like a dying sport not that long ago. tons of courses closing, after 08, 09, like the real estate crash. And now there's this like huge revival of these communities within the golf space. Like I think of the Broken Tea Society, No Laying Up, the Good YouTube channel. And, to Rae's point, now we're like growing at a 10% growth rate. And a lot of people I know my age, late 30s, early 40s are like joining clubs again, whether they're tennis clubs or country clubs, whatever that is. Even the country club membership model is changing pretty dramatically, I think. Anyways, what are your thoughts there on the golf space? Because it's actually a really great example of how they're using community and using online stuff to sort of grow an entire vertical again.
Yeah, I'm not a golf expert. I just want to set the table on that. I do enjoy it. I do know all that stuff. And a really good newsletter that I follow, like Golf and Business, is called like The Perfect Putt. This guy Jared writes it. So good. Yeah, bogey. I'm a bogey golfer. I mean, let's just put that on the record. And that's a good day. I did play yesterday and was kind of striking it nice.
I like
so
it.
I felt good about it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's growing at 9%, but it could be growing even more. There's a golf course in Arizona that just opened up night golf, and that increased their capacity by like 50%. Increase the revenue opportunity by, I think it was like even more than 50% because they raised prices too. But yeah, I think there's just like people want to get out and connect, and it goes back to the excuses to connect, and it's just a really easy conversation to have. Like, what's your handicap? Oh, I went outside and played here. Like, have you played there? Like, what gear do you have? And there's all these new brands popping around kind of riding the community, like riding and leveraging golf as a community. Like I see a new brand on Instagram like every single day, it feels like. And they have like their little cult followings around this thing, but they're riding the larger trend of like golf as a community. So I think if you use golf as a framework, it gets pretty interesting to see how that like town center, if you want to think about golf as like a town center, how that's spinning out all of these opportunities around one central point. Is there anything other like similar to golf that's like that? I mean,
I feel like pickleball and poker are having a big, but it's like hard to monetize pickleball, or it's like hard for one person to like or an entity to monetize poker. But I'm seeing a lot of uptick in entrepreneurial networks. Like you got Hampton and like we're about to launch with Capital Club. It's like a private paid membership group. They got 12,000 members. I'm seeing a lot of run clubs. There's like those raw dogs. What is it? Sexy Faces, Sexy Paces. They're in Austin. They're just like getting together and running. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of cycling groups. There's like ICE. There's International Cycling Executives. People get together and go road cycling together. I think people are seeking activity.
I was going to say the activity piece, like centering it around leisure, is such a great start, because people want, like to Theo's point earlier, like people want to get out. They're itching to get out. We've been stuck behind screens and in home offices here now, it seems like, for 4 or 5 years, and so doing it around a leisure activity is great. And then I think this is where it gets interesting, where creators and influencers, people that know how to build audiences, can then go and like build a brand, around the leisure activity in an adjacent space or with an adjacent product that serves that community or audience. That's where it's super fun to kind of see people start stuff and build stuff.
The other trend I'm seeing is decrease in drinking. Not that everyone's cutting out drinking, but like when I was hosting all-in meetups in Miami, I had to start going to bars because literally there'd be 15 of us and no one would order an alcoholic drink. And then the bartender would just be like, mad at me. And then, and I just think, like the movement Brian Johnson's starting, people are starting to be more fit, less drinking. So I'm not saying everything's drinking. I'm not saying no one's drinking anymore, but I think people are seeking out ways to not just get together and drink and talk at each other. I think, being active, playing golf, doing something else, even if you drink a little bit when you do it, I see that as like a huge downward trend last 10 years.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about golf too, riding that wave, is like if you had asked someone what the TAM of golf was 15 years ago, like it's a very different question today because they've innovated or folks around it have innovated. Night golf, bucket golf, like golf fashion, golf collabs with lifestyle brands, like
Top
this
golf.
top golf. There you go. Tiger Woods is new. What is this putting golf thing is opening in Vegas? Like
Stroke.
Pop Stroke. These are all like what once were very like niche kid, like not really part of the conversation, are now making up bigger pieces of the pie. And I think pickleball to me is like a derivative of tennis or like maybe a derivative of ping pong, depending on how you look at it. But I'm not a pickleball, someone's out there like, fuck this guy. Sorry, can we swear on this podcast? I don't know.
Of course.
Okay. So like, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think my point is that like everything is kind of unbundling into new hyper niches and niches. And folks just want to feel connected to different intersections of weird things that didn't always go together, but that they all love and feel connected to. And I think like the more people who get involved and the more opportunities there are to kind of innovate and push on ideas and push on how these things can like take new shapes, the bigger the TAM gets, the more communities want to form because there's people like them gathering around things that they only thought they were, interested in. And I think like we're always in early innings there. Like we have not even come close to what any industry can become. And I think golf is just like a great piece because of the fashion, because of the social net, because it's kind of old guard and a little protected for so long. And now it's much more accessible.
For sure.
Exactly. And on the leisure kind of wellness things, excuse to connect. I'm curious, Chris, on the like Solana front, like there's also other reasons that people are getting together physically that aren't having to do with that, but are more around their, maybe more technical or nerdy or, however you just describe nerdy, like interests and what gets them fired up. So I'm wondering how those meetups take place as well and what people are talking about and what gets them fired up to meet in person instead of over Discord, over Slack or Discord.
I think like my personal experience is events are super, super important. When I first started out with events, I was covering social media for Solana Foundation. So basically tweeting about stuff happening at hacker houses, which were basically like places where we would host events and attract builders to come and build something for a week. And going to all of these hacker houses all around the world, from Japan to North America to South America, Australia, I realized the value in people attending events in real life over online, because there's kind of connections that you can develop with people that you wouldn't necessarily form over Zoom. There's just like something about being in the same space as someone and being able to shake someone's hand, give them a hug, go and have dinner with them after the event, whatever it is. These are dynamics you can't replicate online. And those are what form opportunities for people, whether it's co-founding a company with someone you meet at an event, or recruiting someone, being recruited. There's so many things that happen that can't even be measured, like measurable. It's almost like the butterfly effect. It's like, you put on this event and there's things that are going to happen there that you can't predict. They're just so spontaneous. So that's what made me become very bullish on events, and that's what makes me passionate about events, organizing events, and strategizing for optimizing the outcomes of events. So yeah, that would be my answer there.
Chris, how has the mood changed like in Super Team once the like sort of events at scale regularly took hold and sort of became a part of the community? Like, did you see a change there, a shift in the way people talked or engaged? I think we always had events. We started out in India, like this was before I joined. That was the first Super Team. Events was always a part of the Super Team sort of initiative, as far as I'm aware. It's just that as we've grown to more countries, so now we're in the United Kingdom, we're in France, Germany, constantly looking for new countries to add. So as we add those countries, then we start to engage the community with events. So like I just spoke to a guy in San Francisco today about, like how we can collaborate on events there. And he's really passionate to
identifies with a lot of what I'm saying about why events are important. So I think it's like basically that if the super team wasn't there before, maybe there weren't events happening in some places, or maybe they weren't high quality. They were just like people meeting together in a bar for a few drinks, and there wasn't sort of like a focus on outcomes. So yeah, I think it's more just like improving the availability of the events and optimizing for the outcomes.
What's a good example of sorry, Rae, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, from what I've noticed against other communities on River, Super Team, they're actually trying to earn Solana. They're trying to build products on Solana. So they have like a serious motivation to get together regularly because they are trying to accomplish something. Whereas like some groups, like My First Million, it's kind of just like get drinks and chit chat. Yeah, shared mission, like really trying to like chip away at a goal. I find that
I think that's true. Yeah, I think people, they are trying to achieve something as a community. Solana wants to be, like a dominant blockchain. Like we're already dominant, to be honest. Like from when I first started with Solana, we were just like, I think quite small sort of network, and we've grown to be in the top 10 sort of market cap in terms of crypto. And the community has just grown in tandem with that. So yeah, I think there's a sense of community and like a purpose that we want Solana to succeed, and that's what keeps us all together and unites us. It's almost like a sports team, but with technology.
Theo, how do you guys think about that shared mission that you shared? Like, can you create that? And does it have to be from the bottom up, or can you drive it from the top down? How do you all think about that?
I think it's hard from the bottom up if you're looking at it through a product lens or a company lens and you're expecting your customers to figure that out without you. I think that's a hard spot to be in. I think the brands that are going to win in the future are going to have a pretty strong mission and one that folks can rally around, even if it's small, even if it's niche, even if it's like feels quirky or different. Good, like smaller the better to start. And if it's big and audacious and you're just a small company doing it and solving that problem in a small way, fine, that works too. You just need to be clear about it. Like we very much want to connect the disconnected at LCA. We very much care about community and injecting community into product to connect people where they live and hang out day in and day out. We like to say community-based products are purpose-built and optimized for connection. So purpose-built means we help brands figure out how to create a product that actually resonates with its users. So they know when they open that app or when they go to that website, this is for them. This is a place for them. They see a brand, they see copy, they see other people, they see presence, they see a product that makes them feel seen and makes them feel excited. And then when they get in and start using it, holy shit, you also have, a teenage engineering microphone? Like, so do I. Fucking love that brand. Let's go. Oh, you also go and, want the Celtics to win the final? Like, yeah, great. You got your jersey on and so does that person. There's varying levels of it, but we want to optimize brands and companies for connections that when people either just see a face pile in an app and know someone else is there that thinks and feels like them and they're not alone, or whether they're out at a bar and laptops are open or bar cafe for, more on trend where the world is going, maybe less bars. Laptops are open and people see folks, I don't know, like maybe not trading Solana. Maybe you don't want that open at a coffee house, but, on Figma, or you're doing something in, you're watching a live break in Fanatics Live. We want people to feel excited because when that serendipity happens, Chris, to your point, that serendipity is something people miss so much. But when you see it and it's exciting to you and you feel connected to it, you're just inclined to take part and feel excited. That connection is so powerful. So I think it's just about really building with the mission ingrained into the business, and then like figuring out how the product and how the activities of the business and how everything around it contributes to that, even if it is in subtle ways, to kind of add and build to that towards that story.
I think the more specific and niche, the better to like get that initial core audience. I hosted a Brian Johnson, like Don't Die meetup in Boston when he launched with River, and 30 people showed up and everyone was like giddy like a kid in a candy store and they're like, oh my God, did not know there were 30 other vegans who wanted to go to sleep at 9 p.m. and shoot olive oil. Like, it's just like, but if you can imagine if I had hosted like a health meetup in Boston, it just like, sure, we're all into health, but like it just, or even a longevity meetup, like it would have been very lukewarm. It wouldn't have been like so intense, I guess. So then no one would really stick around. It's like almost like the more hyper focused and niche you are, the more like loyalty you'll attract, and then you can grow from there. But just starting too generic is never going to work.
Exactly, that purpose builtness. And I think there's a saying, density breeds engagement. Like, it's so true. Like, you really need that density to create that initial spark and that initial fire of community. And then from there, copy, paste, multiply, grow. And then at a certain point, when it gets too big, how do you cut it up and unbundle it and do it all over again?
And I think with the affinity too, like just embedding, like if you know moments, just like deepens that affinity where it's like the connection points around the shared mission. Like olive oil, why is that like tethered to longevity? But like if you drop like olive oil, or whatever, like the snake oil, it's like, like you're a real one, credibility check, like, all right, now let me get you closer, like it's just like a natural tendency. So like I think embedding those moments is like you can start with a shared mission, but then like you should be just like, if moments sprinkled throughout.
Totally.
Brian's face also, sorry, I have to throw this out there because I talked to somebody in the Don't Die community that was like, yeah. But it's like, it's Brian. It's like his face, like him. It's like, it's like he said, he's like, I have mixed feelings about this because like, on the one hand, like there's one guy at the top of this big pile of people. It's like, it's kind of weird. But then the other side of me is like, well, I'm a human and I relate to a face. I don't relate as well to a non-face. And so, I mean, I'm kind of curious. I mean, if the community experts have any thoughts on that phenomenon, because when he said that, I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And obviously Brian is trying to bring in other leaders under the Don't Die brand, but Brian is like the face right now.
Catholic Church needs a pope.
Yeah, I mean, some of the biggest brands and companies on earth started with a face, whether it's Michael Jordan and Nike, or it's Cindy Crawford and Pepsi in the 80s or early 90s. Like this is what we've always done. We've taken the cool, trendy, magnetic energy people and we've put them as the face of a brand, and that helps galvanize them around that brand.
We're simple beings, like
simple beings.
Technology, it's like evolving at a rapid clip. I do not believe that humans are. So.
Okay, I got a fun question here. I want to go around the horn again. I want to ask each of you, if we leave like religion and politics aside again, like what do you think is the greatest, most successful, community-driven business example?
I mean, I got a few old ones that I like thinking about old stuff sometimes. I'm like, what's the this for that?
Love it.
I mean, Wikipedia. Remember when we were all in high school and they were like, Wikipedia is not a reliable source for your paper because, any idiot on the internet could add to it and you gotta, go read from these 40 encyclopedia, whatever. I don't know. I'm just like, Wikipedia is like the greatest community achievement of all time, probably. Also like Craigslist is like such a community like aspect, and like he never changed the interface and like just no fucking fucks given. And it's just like, nope, this is what it is. So clear. But it relies on the community. Like it's a little bit like a fax machine. It's like Craigslist is only useful if other people like using it. But more modern, I think Duolingo is pretty interesting. They basically let people contribute to the content for learning other languages, which is how they were able to like, and obviously they had people verifying or whatever, but they just crowdsource the effort of building out courses in other languages. And then when you have contributed something, you feel more loyalty to that app. I think they've done a brilliant job as well.
Love those examples. Jordan, what you got?
I don't know about the biggest. I mean, like the biggest, most successful, probably like a sports team. I mean, just like that's just the biggest layup of all time. No pun intended, but I think like like Rap Genius, how they started. It was all crowdsourced and still is. Like the meaning of the lyrics, like following that like Wikipedia thread. They have like 7,000 community members that surface all of the stuff, all the meanings for the lyrics, and just like are predicting trends on who's going to pop. And I think that's really interesting that they have free employees, basically community members, like literally filling this database. A sleeper one that I think has been killing it, and they started for $700. Have you guys seen Dad Gang? It's this hat brand. Three dudes started at a hat brand called Dad Gang, and it literally just says Dad Gang on the hats. And they started for $700, and they did 2 million sales last month, and have like Dwayne Wade as a sponsor, Mookie Betts as a sponsor, and like done a bunch of collaborations. And like people are buying Dad Gang hats to go to the hospital to like, you know, birth their baby, or not them birth it, but be a part of it, and like put the hat on, yeah, be there support. And it's like that just blows my mind. And like they have like on the side, like if you know, you know, as like the acronym. I think they've just been able to kill it, and that's just it blows my mind. Like if you told me that someone would start a dad gang in 2022, I'd be like, dude, dads have been around forever. Like there's plenty of dad stuff, you know. But there's 2 million in a month. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Mom gang.
Mom gang.
Wife gang.
I mean, I'm not the right woman to start that. I'm firmly child free, but someone else should start that.
Start the movement. Yeah, a ton of good examples. Like, man, so many good examples. You know, I'll let Chris speak to crypto communities, and there's developer communities, and I think this shit, like in defining like what a community is and what's so important that keeps them together, that was like a big identity one. Dad Gang is such a good identity. It's such a big part of someone's identity when they become a father or a parent, that like it just makes sense. The tie there is so strong. I don't know if it's a sleeper because it's old school and so well known, and we're gonna just keep riding the trend from Rae earlier. But Alcoholics Anonymous, like AA, is a crazy,
Yeah.
self-organized community with over 120,000 groups worldwide,
Totally right.
with no leader, just like all on a shared mission of sobriety, all there to support one another, and there's often a lot of people in those communities who are actively looking for belonging because they don't have that in their life. And I think like it creates these safe spaces. Like it just ticks all the boxes of community, of like making people feel seen, giving safe space for self-expression, part of someone's identity, shared mission, excuses to connect, rituals. So you come regularly.
Consistency, getting together regularly and moving up. Get your
exactly. You get your chips, you work through. Yeah. It's
you
like
become a mentor.
It's wild. And then you give back, kind of full circle. And like I think again, like I'm riding a fine line between religion and politics, because like this is also one of the old institutions that I think has done so much. Again, let's park religion and politics. I think AA has done so much good for so many people, and it is really a true embodiment of community. And then if you look at those same principles and then bring it to, you know, again, developer community, sports teams, the crypto community, like which ones are the most rabid, which ones are like the most successful? It's like very strong mission. You definitely want your team to win, like strong tie to your identity. Like, yes, I'm from this city and I love this player and I want them to go all the way because I wrap myself in that. What are these rituals? I go to the games. There's like the fun, like it just follows all of the same trends. And so I think what businesses are not doing is thinking about that. Brands are not thinking about, they are more and more today, especially as you go down more and more niche. But the bigger brands who've gotten comfy, and, you know, we say like the old tech brands, which, you know, it's only 20 years old. It's not really that old, but in tech speak, it is. You know, you go to sleep on a win, you wake up with a loss, that old expression. Like, I really do think a lot of brands are going to get caught sleeping in the next couple of years if they don't start thinking about these things to build loyalty, because they are not building the same movements that other brands are, and people are going to flock.
Yeah, I think a lot of brands treat their whole audience as just like a flat. instead of like
My
creating,
customers, like
Yeah.
what?
Total
yeah,
lifetime value, CAC, like all these metrics where you're like, yeah, this has only to do with the internal mechanisms of your business and your budget, and not at all to do with engaging and relating to those people. It's crazy.
Yeah,
All right,
that's what
I
gets me
got
so
a couple I got
pumped
to
about
throw
it.
out.
That's what gets me so pumped about River is like you can get that data to make it, like a 3D map of your like customer segments that actually like show up to cafes, meet up. So it's really cool. That's really cool to make it like 3-dimensional instead of just a flat line. Earth's flat. Sorry, Andrew. Now you go.
I mean, flat earthers is a great one. No, I got a few. Okay. I'll move over this first one quickly. Taylor Swift is an incredible,
he's a genius. She's
unbelievable
a genius.
Yeah.
She's a music genius, a branding genius, but community, like when she invites people into her home for a concert, she didn't have to do that. But, or like when she invited all of her fans to be like in the Shake It Off music video, like these things that don't scale, oh, they are juicy.
Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. This guy wrote one letter a year for like 50 years and is the greatest wealth generation engine of the last 50 years. And then I got to say it, GameStop, Roaring Kitty. It's an unbelievable thing to think about. Like, this is a group of people who have basically built major hedge fund levels of a position in a single company. And every time the company does something without the company having to pay any money for marketing, people go out and buy stuff. It's crazy. Like, they launched these new controllers where you can just like change the color of the buttons and like brand them however you want. Like, if you're a Pokemon fan, you can just like put Pokemon stuff all over your, PS5 controller. And they're probably selling tens of millions of dollars of these controllers and accessories for these controllers. And they had to market to no one. They had to put up no billboards, no TV commercials, nothing. They just said, hey, we did this. And then like this ravaged base of 1 million plus people just went out and bought stuff. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I've just thought of a good one. There was a crypto community that crowd-funded trying to buy a copy of the Constitution. That was pretty cool. I don't think they succeeded in the end, but the idea itself was pretty good, and it did garner attention and the community. So it was a fail in the end, but it was a win in terms of it was a good try. I would say like TED Talks as well, TED Talks X, because TED Talks X sort of spun off the official branding of TED Talks. It's kind of like a nice organic example of an IRL community that I think value doesn't necessarily just have to be money. It can also be, is it educational? Is it going to change the world for good? So I would add that one as well.
Jordan, I have a question. What made you and Greg decide, like what led to your thesis around going all in on community-based companies?
That's better for Theo, because he was there from day one. I've just been a fan for a while, and then I joined him.
We red pilled Jordan. We green pilled Jordan. Whatever color you want to choose from our logo, that's the pill we gave him. Greg and I have a bit of a track record working in the community space in one way, shape, or form, mostly in product. But, I joined his startup back in 2012, which was breaking out internet communities around video, what to watch. It's called 5by. So imagine subreddits, but targeting video specifically for them and how we pull that out. I don't know if you guys remember Songs, a very popular app of what to listen to by, mood. It was kind of like that, but then we broke it into sub communities of what the internet was interested in when, sub niches were popping up and mobile video was exploding. Right. How do you funnel people into the best video content for your niche? And that's kind of like early days, how we got started. Greg was even earlier than this in terms of like digital communities and building them online. But then I went towards the luxury travel Airbnb route, very big in community. And Greg went into Islands, which was essentially communities on college campuses around different things. It was Slack for college. And then that got acquired by WeWork, very community oriented. And then we decided to get the band back together around this thesis of connecting the disconnected and doing it through community-based products. This kind of, where is the puck going? Why are people, like, where are we today, now 20 years into the internet, and how are people feeling about it? Social networks have been around for, 12, 15 years. Are they really doing their job? Are people really feeling more connected, or is the opposite happening? And what are the kind of, unfortunate side effects of all of this kind of online connection? And so we built a thesis around that, and how cool would it be to not build one business to help with that, but as many as we can over the next, 5 decades plus, and build our forever place to work and build a community ourselves of really interesting, talented builders, smart, cool people who want to come in and do the same thing. And so that's kind of where the thesis originated from. And we were a three-legged stool from day one, which was, an agency, which was helping other brands do this, a studio doing it ourselves, and then a fund where we got to invest in cool companies that were doing it as well. And then would all kind of create this nice ecosystem of cross-pollination where we'd learn a lot from the companies we were consulting, and we'd kind of pay the bills, sharpen the skills, fund our own venture projects with that money and those learnings. And then the investments that we'd make in other companies might need our services or might be a great acquisition move for us, and fold into our studio. And so it was a very, I would call it like a utopia that we really wanted to get to. And for a lot of reasons, it was that. Ultimately, we ended up going the holding company route for focus reasons. We really wanted the teams that were executing on the certain companies or ventures to be focused on those ventures and giving them the best chance at success with a leader at the top, a killer team around it, but then leveraging shared learnings across the businesses and really creating a community of companies to maximize our likelihood for success and fun. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. We love community. We love thinking about it. We want to kind of build connection as much as we can, not only for the brands that we work with, but for the people who come work with us. It's tough out there to be like grinding 8, 10, 12 hours a day, whatever it is that you're doing. And those tight teams on a shared mission are super important. And I think if we can do that, times N, that's going to be really exciting for us to do.
And how many years have you been at it?
We are turning 4 in 2 days.
Wow.
Late checkout, the holding company is turning 4 in 2 days. Different brands have, different birthdays. Some, just a few months old in their infancy, and others, more toddlers. But Greg and I have been at it for over a decade now, or 12 years together, and Greg has been at it for probably 20. In his nerdy 13-year-old, like sitting at a computer, plugging away, innovating self. So been at it for a few years, but we're, early innings, as they say.
That's great.
And you guys, I love River. I think this feels like a missing piece to what an entire group, or I would say an entire category of companies, are not thinking about and not facilitating for their customers. They're only thinking about retention, and they're only thinking about how do we increase MRR, and they're only thinking about bottom line, and they're not thinking about how do we create loyalty through actually connecting our customers. How do you guys think about it in terms of who this is for? Like right now, it feels much more for personalities, influencers, or like known names with followings. But how do you guys think about it, and why did you start it?
Well, I started it mostly just trying to solve my own problem.
Right.
When I started the All In Meetups group, I literally just wanted to meet some people in Miami. I was not planning on it being international. And I was like, oh, I used to live in San Francisco. I used to live in New York. I know a lot of people in Austin. Best case scenario, maybe something will happen there. And certainly wanted to like let that happen. But that wasn't the goal. I wasn't like, oh, let me start this like huge group. But yeah, I just had a tiger by the tail and was just trying to keep up. First kind of big batch of events, we did 24 cities, no tech. I mean, Google, it was an Airtable, a Google Calendar, and a BCC email. And like, I was so unprepared that like I had this data problem where if people selected multiple cities, like I didn't realize that people were selecting that they wanted to like opt into multiple cities. So if someone said, oh, I'm interested in Boston and New York, they didn't get an email from me because I only filtered for people who only put Boston. That email. So like could have been even bigger the first time around. I just was like, hair was on fire. Did it first time, thought that'd be it. 6 months, I started a Slack group. There's like 2,000 people in there. Email list like 7,000 people. Second time, 6 months later, 125, episode 125 was coming around. Everyone's like, we're doing it again, right? Obviously. And I was like, fuck no, this was so much work. Yeah, how much work? And like, what am I getting out of this? I don't know. But I was like, okay, there's gotta be a tool for this. So we tried Luma, which is a beautiful event app. Like, now that we're building our own event app, I'm like, oh wow, they have just sweated every single detail.
Time zones. Just time zones alone.
Oh my God, it's so snappy. The thing is a work of art. But in order to spin up 50 events, I had to personally create 50 events, like create one template, duplicate 50. I would ask people, hey, do you want to host this? And they'd be like, yeah. I'd add them as the host and be like, no, I just meant sometime, not like that day. And I'm like, shit. Then like the hosts, I had no way of knowing if their event was up to date. Like, are they engaged? Like, did they send a message? Like, have they picked a location? There's no way to check besides just having 50 tabs open and just going to look at everyone and keeping a spreadsheet. And so when JCal was like, how the hell did you do this? Like, because we did 50, the second time around, we did 50 events around the world on the same day. And I was like, just bodies, man. Like, just pulled people off my marketing agency to help me for the day. He wanted, so he's like, I want you to do the same thing for This Week in Startups. And then Sam Parr tweeted at me about wanting something similar for My First Million. I gave JCal like a consulting quote because I wanted to work with him. And he's like, that's too much money. I was like, that was the friend rate. Like, that was me like discounting my hourly rate because I want to work with you. And he's like, no, it's too much money, but I'll give you $100,000. You can build a SaaS. So really just like, I was pretty happy. My marketing agency was doing pretty well. Like, no meetings on Fridays, like making great money. Obviously there were hard times here and there, but so that's what we're building River for. I think right now our early customers are tech Twitter bros because I'm a tech Twitter bro. Also, they tend to be early adopters and they're just like comfortable with trying new things. The like tricky part about River is like, it's not useful if you're just doing a few events. Like if you're just doing a few events, like our UX is not as smooth as Luma or Partiful, and like, it's just not going to sing for you. But it feels highly risky to send your entire audience first time, which like Tim Ferriss did. So like he announced his 10th anniversary meetups on River, and 3 weeks later 180 events happened that were hosted by other people. Like 5,000 people got together. But like it just doesn't work if you email like 1,000 people to try it and then another 1,000, and then it like you have to create this like thunderstorm of energy, this like lightning strike, and then we can organize everyone. We're starting to talk to sports teams. We're starting to talk to education, starting to talk to B2B SaaS. But those people are just hire, like we've only raised $150,000 in angel investment. So like for a big B2B,
in point of arrival, we will be as smooth as Luma.
Yes,
but the core value add to take away from this is that we're not trying to be an events app. We're trying to do way more. We're trying to orchestrate your audience. We're trying to make it as easy as it is for them to just flip through their phone and waste their whole life. We're trying to do that, but IRL, get them to go see where they can fit in the world and make it easy to encourage them to go do that. In many ways, speaking, taking photos, hosting an event. The hosting is just the start. There's like a whole smorgasbord.
Yeah, we see in the future, like events are just the initial component to activate people. But in the future, instead of an event, we could have projects within a community. And it's like there could be roles. So instead of a host, now you're writing code or you're doing this other thing to kind of activate people. But I mean, the way Ryan says is like getting people off the stands and like onto the field, contributing, working together towards stuff. But yeah, starting with events.
I'm a big fan.
Thanks, guys.
I think you guys are like adding a like layer in the funnel. Like it's like social, newsletter, community, products, and then community again. Like maybe River's that like first layer of like before you even like buy a product, you go to a meetup. It's like and it's just a really scalable, sticky way. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like a little like community sandwich at the bottom of the funnel, a little River sandwich. We're all on that food analogies today. Smorgasbord, buffets. Actually, no.
Yeah. What a great discussion, and thanks everyone for being here and doing it.
Yeah, Theo, Jordan, you guys have been really just I appreciate your good energy and yeah, you guys have a lot of insights around. You give me more like conviction inside me because being a founder, it's like sometimes you're just chewing all the glass and you're like, is this gonna work? But I love hearing that tons of people are betting on this type of thing working, not just us.
Yeah. And again, I think early innings, as old as community is, it's early in the spaces that we play in. So we're still figuring out what community looks like in 2024 and beyond, what it means. I think we're all at a good point in time right now, and we'll see how it all shakes out. But hopefully, we can help write our page or chapter in that book and in that story. Cool.
Yeah, fired up. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Thanks for coming.
We'll package this baby up and post it on the internet tubes.
To 2.8 million people, right?
No, Solana's launching.
I know, I'm kidding. I know, I'm messing with you.
My newsletter list is like 30,000, which is not bad.
That's huge. Yeah, that's wonderful. This was a treat, and anytime you want to jam community, you want to jam product, you want to jam innovation, whatever it is, we're down.
Sounds
I'm
great.
down. I don't want to speak for Jordan. I'm down.
I'm down.
Great.
Yeah,
I'm
I know
down.
it's down.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.